At 78, everyone believed she was gone forever. The funeral was packed, the air thick with grief and whispered regrets. Her children cried uncontrollably, her grandchildren clung to each other, and the village priest prepared his final words. But just as the coffin was about to be lowered, the church doors creaked open, and there she was, standing tall, alive, and trembling. Stay with me, because what happened next would shake an entire family and leave a town in disbelief. She wasn't a ghost nor a vision. She was flesh and blood, her wrinkled face wet with tears, her voice breaking as she whispered, "I'm not dead." The shock rippled through the room like an earthquake. Some fainted, others screamed. Her eldest son dropped to his knees, unable to comprehend what his eyes were witnessing. The impossible had just become real. Her sudden appearance wasn't a miracle. It was the beginning of a shocking revelation that would expose family secrets buried for decades. This story will reveal betrayal, forgiveness, and the kind of truth that changes everything. Watch until the end, because the last revelation of this story will leave you speechless. The funeral that wasn't the church bells rang, echoing across the village, marking what was supposed to be her farewell. Stay with me, because her return would transform mourning into chaos. Her daughter sobbed at the altar, whispering prayers she thought her mother would never hear again. The pain of loss weighed heavily on her soul. Neighbors packed the pews, whispering about her kindness, her resilience, and the sacrifices she made for her family. The town believed it was saying goodbye to a saint. But when the doors swung open, the image of her walking in with shaking hands and weary eyes turned grief into terror. Mourners gasped, unsure if it was a spirit or a cruel trick. Her granddaughter screamed and ran forward, hugging her fragile body. "Grandma, is it really you?" The child's voice pierced the room with raw emotion. The priest stumbled backward, dropping his Bible, his lips trembling as he muttered prayers under his breath. Even faith seemed to falter in that moment. The coffin remained open, empty proof of a deception so deep no one could yet explain. Confusion spread like wildfire among the mourners. Her son shouted, "How is this possible? We saw the doctors, we signed the papers." Every eye turned toward her, demanding answers. Her frail voice cracked. "I never died. I was hidden." Her words chilled the crowd, heavier than any funeral silence. And with that confession, the story shifted from shock to revelation. The next chapter uncovers who hid her and why. Capítulo 2, Menos the Hidden Truth. As murmurs filled the church, she raised her hand, signaling for silence. Stay with me, because the truth she revealed would divide her family in two. She explained that she had been taken away to a remote place against her will. Her disappearance wasn't death, it was a cruel arrangement. Her children stared at her in disbelief. By who? Why would anyone do this? Their questions clawed through the heavy air. With trembling lips, she said, "It was one of you." Her accusation sent the family into shock. The eldest son shouted in denial, "Mother, that's madness." While the daughter collapsed in tears, unable to face the storm. Suspicion now poisoned the funeral. Neighbors whispered among themselves, horrified at the idea that betrayal had come from within. The family's private secrets were now public shame. Her frail hands pointed toward the empty coffin. That was not prepared for me. It was prepared to erase me. Her words felt like daggers of truth. The priest, regaining his composure, demanded she explain further. The church itself became a courtroom. She finally declared, "For years, I carried a secret that someone in this family would do anything to bury." The crowd froze, hanging onto every syllable. And with that, the funeral turned into a stage for confession. The next chapter uncovers the secret she carried. Capitolo San, the secret that haunted her. Her voice quivered as she revealed the secret she had kept for over 50 years. Stay with me, because this secret would tear the family apart. She confessed that her late husband, the children's father, had not been the man everyone believed him to be. The image of the perfect patriarch began to crumble. He had lived a double life with hidden debts, betrayals, and a truth so dark it had endangered them all. The saintly memory dissolved into shadows. Her children gasped, their grief now tangled with anger. The father they honored was not the man they thought they knew. She explained that someone in the family discovered this truth and decided the only way to protect themselves was to silence her. Her survival had been an accident, or perhaps a miracle. Her granddaughter clung tighter, whispering, "Grandma, who tried to erase you?" The innocence of the question pierced the tension. She looked at each of her children in turn, her silence heavier than any accusation. Suspicion grew like poison in their hearts. Neighbors shifted uncomfortably, torn between sympathy and curiosity. The village, once a witness to grief, was now a witness to scandal. She finally whispered, "The truth I carry will destroy someone here today." Her eyes filled with both fear and determination. And as the church bells rang again, it became clear this was not an ending, but the beginning of a battle for truth. The next chapter reveals the first cracks in the family's unity. The family fractures, the silence inside the church turned into chaos as the children shouted over one another. Stay with me, because this moment would expose hidden rivalries decades in the making. The eldest son swore he knew nothing about her disappearance, his voice echoing like thunder. His denial sounded desperate, not convincing. The daughter accused him of lying, reminding everyone that he had handled the funeral arrangements. Her words poisoned the air with suspicion. The younger son wept uncontrollably, torn between grief, confusion, and rage. His sobs revealed wounds too deep to ignore. The granddaughter screamed for everyone to stop fighting, clutching her grandmother tightly. Her innocence became the only voice of reason. Neighbors whispered loudly now, gossip spreading faster than truth. The family's dignity crumbled before the entire town. The priest demanded order, slamming his hand on the altar. His authority was the only thing keeping the storm contained. The grandmother raised her hand again, her eyes burning with sorrow. "The truth is heavier than my years," she said. Her words silenced the church once more. She warned them, "If you cannot face what I know, this family will destroy itself before the truth is even spoken." Her warning hung like smoke in the air, and with that, the battle lines within her own bloodline were drawn. The next chapter reveals who carried the darkest suspicion. Capitulo wore the accusation. The daughter's voice cracked as she shouted, "It was you, brother. You wanted her gone. Stay with me," because accusations now turned family into enemies. The eldest son turned red with rage, slamming his fist against a pew. "How dare you?" he bellowed. His fury only deepened suspicion. The congregation gasped, watching the drama unfold like a tragic play. Their whispers filled the holy space with scandal. The daughter listed the evidence: his control over her finances, his power in the village, and his coldness after their father's death. Her case sounded damning. The son fired back. "You never cared for her. You were too busy running from your own shame." His accusation shifted the spotlight. The younger son cowered, whispering that maybe both of them had reasons. His doubt ignited more fury than silence ever could. The grandmother wept silently, listening as her children destroyed each other before her eyes. Her return had not saved them, it had set them ablaze. She whispered, "You are fighting to avoid the truth. But the truth cannot be buried forever." Her words were ignored in the storm of rage. The priest begged them to remember where they stood in God's house, before the eyes of the town. But even faith could not cool the fire of betrayal. And then the grandmother named the one person who had orchestrated her false death. The next chapter reveals her shocking choice. Capitulo lo, the name revealed, the room froze as the grandmother lifted her trembling hand and pointed. "Stay with me," because the name she spoke would shatter what remained of peace. Her finger did not point at her eldest son, nor her daughter, nor the timid younger son. It pointed at the priest himself. The congregation gasped in disbelief. The priest stumbled backward, his face pale as ashes. The shepherd was now the accused wolf. Whispers erupted. The priest, how could he? Why would he? The sacred trust of the village shattered in seconds. The grandmother's voice cracked. "You came to me with prayers, but you poisoned my life with lies. You locked me away to bury my husband's sins." Her confession echoed like thunder. The priest shook his head furiously, denying every word, but his trembling hands betrayed him. The eldest son demanded answers. "What did you know about father?" The truth now circled back to the dead patriarch. The priest whispered some secrets should remain buried. His cryptic words only deepened the mystery. The grandmother shouted, louder than she ever had before, "No, secrets destroy families. Truth is the only salvation." Her cry shook the very walls of the church. And as the stunned congregation looked on, the stage was set for the revelation of her husband's darkest secret. The next chapter uncovers what he hid for decades. The breaking point, the church had become a battlefield of emotions, grief, rage, disbelief, and shame colliding all at once. Stay with me, because this breaking point would decide if the family shattered or healed. The eldest son shouted at his mother, accusing her of inventing lies to destroy their father's name. His anger was his shield against pain. The daughter slapped the pew in frustration. "Open your eyes." Everything she said matches what we've lived through. Her fury tore through denial. The younger son buried his face in his hands, muttering, "We were raised on a lie." His despair reflected generations of silence. The neighbors gasped, realizing they too had been fooled by the man they once admired. The town's respect turned into resentment. The grandmother wept, her frail body trembling. "I never wanted this fight. I wanted freedom." Her sorrow silenced the chaos for a moment. The priest begged them to stop, but his own guilt silenced his authority. His voice had lost all weight. The eldest son screamed, "He was my hero." Tears streamed down his face. His identity was built on a lie he couldn't let go of. The daughter pulled him close, whispering, "He was our father, but also a man who failed us." Her words sought balance between love and truth. And as the family crumbled, the grandmother warned, "If you cannot accept the truth, you will bury me alive once more." The next chapter reveals how they respond. Capítulo 6. The choice to listen. The air grew heavy as silence returned to the church. Stay with me, because this chapter reveals the fragile moment where hearts began to open. The daughter approached her mother, kneeling at her feet. "I believe you," she whispered. Her faith became the first step toward healing. The younger son joined her, placing his hand on his grandmother's frail hand. "We need to face this together." His voice carried the seed of unity. The eldest son hesitated, trembling with rage and grief. His silence was louder than any accusation. The grandmother's tears fell on her children's hands. "My silence cost me 20 years of freedom. Do not let it cost you the rest of your lives." Her plea pierced their hearts. The daughter begged her brother, "Listen to her. Stop clinging to lies." Her desperation pulled at his defenses. The younger son echoed, "We can't change father's sins, but we can choose how to live with them." His wisdom was born from pain. The eldest son clenched his fists, then slowly lowered his head. "If I listen, it means I've lost everything I believed in." His voice cracked with vulnerability. The grandmother leaned forward, whispering, "No, my son, it means you have finally found the truth." Her words unlocked the door to acceptance. And in that fragile moment, the family stood at the edge of reconciliation. The next chapter reveals if forgiveness could truly be found. Capítulo 6. The first step toward forgiveness. The eldest son finally collapsed into his mother's arms, sobbing like a child. Stay with me, because this was the moment where anger transformed into sorrow. He cried, "I hate what father did, but I don't hate you." His words lifted decades of silence. The grandmother stroked his hair with trembling hands. Then let the hate die with him. Let love live with us. Her plea carried the weight of survival. The daughter embraced them both, tears streaming down her face. Her arms closed, the distance of years lost to lies. The younger son whispered, "We can't fix the past, but we can build a future." His words became a seed of hope. The priest bowed his head in shame, confessing that he had failed them. His admission gave the family power over their own truth. The townspeople wept quietly, moved by the family's struggle. Their grief turned into compassion. The grandmother said, "Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is choosing not to be chained anymore." Her wisdom burned into their souls. Her children nodded, their hearts breaking open to the possibility of peace. The chains of silence began to fall away, and so, for the first time in decades, the family chose to begin again. The next chapter reveals the final test of their reconciliation.